Hi everyone. Today I'm gonna be talking about setting up your own studio, your own developer, your own company. I guess that mostly whatever I'm gonna be saying is adaptable. It's can be adapted to any kind of entrepreneurship. But in our case, I'm going to be referring to things that are very, very common in the video game industry. And I'm also going to be talking about setting up your own video game developer company, mostly because that's really at hand of anyone these days. Anyone can be a developer, I believe. And being a publisher feels like a bit more complicated to set it up from the get-go. It requires a bit more experience, at least on the business side. So yeah, that's gonna be the outlook of it. We're gonna be touching like 10 points from the team, the company, and yeah, what it is to start. Okay, so as I said, we're gonna be talking about setting up your own company, but especially your developer company. And when I was muted, I was saying that I actually have this talk on the Valencia Indie Summit years past. I think that the points are still valid because it's very transversal and non-time sensitive. And I was reflecting on how important it is sometimes to do this kind of talks or this organization where you have to explain something to someone else, because then you get all your thoughts in place and organized and categorized, and it's nice. It gives you the feeling that, oh, maybe I know something, and oh, now everything is more clear when you like put it into paper and yeah, organized it. So let's start. First key, the team. That's the core of any developer company. And whenever you have a team for the creation of video games, it is very important to know who you have in your team and why are you having it in your team. And this in the sense of me being the leader or maybe following someone else, but I would definitely recommend that you are very conscious and very aware that when you join a team or when you set up a team, everybody has complementary abilities. I know that there's people that feel like they need to be the ones that know more. I personally like to surround myself with people that know more than me on the areas, especially when we're talking about setting up a team. So I rather have people that know more than me, especially in those parts that I don't know anything at all. So we all share the burden or the weight of that team and what that team is together to set forth. What I would not recommend with this regard is to include anybody in your team that you feel like not forced but like in depth with, like because it's your friend or is your parents' friend or you feel pity for them. These kind of things happen sometimes and it's not good. You need to surround yourself with people that bring something to the table, because each one of you has its own issues, its own baggage. So you better be conscious of why everybody is in here meaning the team. Well, yeah, exactly. That's not to be the dumbest person in the room. I mean, probably I'm the dumbest person in any programmer's room, an art room and design room and whatnot. But when it comes to other areas, I'm not. I am bringing something to the team. I'm bringing something to the table that is also very valuable. So that's the whole point. Second key, the goal. might seem maybe too obvious sometimes, or too hidden actually. Might be that white elephant in a team's room. But it is very important that everybody in the team has the same goal. And when I say team, I mean company, or, well, for me, a company is also a group of people, because everything is people at the base. So it has to be very clear what the goal of this team is, and to always strive for it. And if there's any doubt, then talk about it and establish it and reestablish it, and share and talk and discuss. And what happens in video games is that we're hit by changes in technology and changes in trends, and all these things that we talked about last time, right? There's so many things that can happen in and happens in video games, that you as a developer have to adapt. You have to adapt. You have to be flexible to be able um to change on like this. I mean, it has happened that you spend X amount of years or months developing something, you're ready to launch, and then the platform owner launches it too, and your whole investment goes out the drain. What are you going to be doing next? What are you going to be doing next? If you're just one person, you will decide that eventually, right? But if you're working in a team, it might mean the need of a talk. It might mean reestablishing of boundaries or of goals or anything. If you are one team, you have to all go in the same direction. There is nothing more draining than a team where there's different goals, and there's part of a team that wants to go one way, or do a certain thing, or do it in a certain way, and then there's another part of the team that wants to go in a different way, and wants to do a different way. And I think that the best example for a team that is not sharing the same goal is this game of I don't know exactly the word in English, but when this game that there's two teams, and there's these two teams are pulling a rope, and there's like a handkerchief or another small rope tied in the middle, and then each team pulls the rope on their side. Well, you want your team to be one side of the rope, not both sides of the rope, right? That is the most important thing. It can destroy every effort you do if the team is not aligned and doesn't have the same goal. But I cannot stress how important it is to actually that share the same vision and share the same goals, the whole team. And then it is very common when people start their own project in the sense of a new team, new company, to start it with this, especially the younger you are, right? Or the less experienced. If it's the first time that you start a company with a bunch of people, or 1, 2, 3 people. But it's very common to start a company saying, I'm gonna do it differently. I'm not going to be like my ex-boss or all these bosses that I've heard or seen or worked for. I'm gonna be different. I'm going to be better. We're gonna be a company that decides everything together and talks about it, decides together, and blah 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 blah. And then we're gonna share everything in equal parts. And I mean, it is a fantastic thought and intention, but the truth of the matter is that I know very few companies that survive this kind of management. There are, I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it is very, very complicated and hard to actually pull it off to have so many leaders. Once you have your goal, each one has to do their own part. And there is necessary. We are closer to wolves than anything. Well, of course, we're closer to monkeys, but I mean, in the organizational scheme, I believe that humans are more equipped like wolves than any other mammal. Again, I'm not an expert on animal kingdom, but the image is very powerful where a pack of wolves revolve around a lead, right? Why is this? Because sometimes, even though you might be a small team or you are super open and it's not efficient to discuss everything. Sometimes, no, most of the time, or maybe always, there needs to be someone that decides and has the last word, because you cannot discuss things to oblivion till all your energy is invested in just discussing. Well, what you need to do is produce and publish. So produce something and bring it to the end. And for that, once the goals are shared, the vision is shared, one person has to be the leader. And I don't mean it in the sense that you do what I say because I said so. I mean that in case of doubt, there has to be someone that decides. There has to be someone that has the last say. And maybe this doesn't happen after hours of talk. Maybe it happens after a minute of talk, but that's enough. That's good enough. As long as you're getting closer to your goal, it's enough. Again, it's a beautiful sentiment to share everything and to have multiple heads, but managing is not that fun up thing that a lot of people think it is when they start out or when they set up their company. They think that the managing is being the boss, is just saying what they want and doing what they want. Well, not really. Because actually, at the end of it, what you do is making sure that everyone is doing what they do best. And that would be my work, is making sure that everybody in the team has what they need to have to develop themselves, and thus their work at the company or at the team at the best of their abilities. So it's kind of like, yeah, I'm the boss. I'm the one that has the last say. But still, it's not like everybody does whatever I want, right? What happens in a lot of companies is that they start sharing everything, equal parts, and they don't take into account what it takes to actually manage the company. Because one thing is when it's a couple friends working, but another thing is when you're actually being an entrepreneur, when it's not just about having fun, it's about having a living, making a living for yourselves. So that entails responsibility with hard consequences, and that entails a lot of work that it's invisible and not necessarily well valued. So because a producer, for example, a producer will not be really valued until it's missing, or until she is not doing what he's supposed to be doing, and everything start going not so well, not so smooth. So it's kind of like only noticeable when it's wrong. If it's good, nobody notices, nobody cares much. But it is very important. And the same thing goes for the leadership in a project, the leadership in a company. It is okay to share certain responsibilities, but it has to be very clear and very well determined. That's why there's CEOs, CTOs, CFOs, CMOs, COOs, whatever you want to put a CEO. But it's important. It's like, okay, this is my sphere of responsibility. We give each other that respect, that responsibility, that area. But still, there has to be recommended. The fourth key already would be the setup of, okay, so in this example, we are setting up a developer, right? This is a developer company. And every developer company starts with a project. Because we're talking now and not 10 years ago, most of the developer companies will start with a game, a video game, that maybe they started creating it while studying, or maybe even a little after, but with friends of their studies, or so that would be the general. I mean, there are other examples. It's not like a closed list, but this is pretty common nowadays, right? So we're talking about setting up a developer company in a indie scene era. So our company will start with our own project. So we got a question. I'll continue on the thought. In the gaming access, so as a publisher, you would check how a studio is set up before taking them on? Absolutely. That's absolutely right. But honestly, not only as publishers, also as partners. For me, it would be very hard to start working with, or definitely I will have to know everything, how the flows go between the members of this team, because maybe maybe they are producing art only, or music, or well, music is more like a solo act, but I don't know, maybe ports or whatnots. But as a publisher checking for a video game, that's one of the questions and one of the answers that we need to know before getting into a lot of depth on our conversations. We need to know how is the setup. Are they a company, or are they just a bunch of friends working together, or classmates? How are they organized? How are they set up? Like, what abilities do the team have? It is very important, and we definitely check on that. It shows maturity. If you're 20 people in a team developing I don't know, a game, that tells me that at least it's a solid established developer, right? But if you're just fresh off the university and you're setting up your company based on the last project you did on the university, and you're 20 people because in the university you were bunched with 19 other teammates, and it's working somehow, so you want to go ahead and become partners. Well, to me that shows certain immaturity, because that's not practical, that's not efficient, definitely not recommended. A wise man told me once that a wise woman told him that partners in a company should be fewer, it should be always in the odds, and fewer than 3 recommended. So that means that partnership is always very tricky, right? So one has to be very mindful of who you become partners with. It's not a small thing. Not even, I mean, and just because you're not making it official, just when you start working with someone and sharing certain stuff in this area where, it's based on intellectual property, and there are so many things that happen automatically. You become author, you have certain rights, and the potential of monetizing your work. There are so many ramifications to it that one has to be very mindful. Not while studying, While studying is good, but when you're going professional, you should be always very mindful because the consequences might be very painful. Honest. So, this first project, first thing that one has to evaluate is the reach that we want it to have. Of course, we all aim to do like the best video game ever. That is, the most downloaded video game, the most sold video game. I don't know, the funniest video game. I don't know. You put the superlative in whatever drives you, right? But if it's your first project, chances are you're not gonna be at the top of your game as a professional. So even though you're aiming to do all that, and that's fantastic because we have to have goals. We have to have a horizon where we want to get eventually. We might better start doing something more affordable, more approachable, something that will be closer to our abilities. So we as a team try ourselves out and we get the experience of creating, packaging, and delivering, right? So the scope of the game that we're planning has to be also, like us, smaller. How many teams have, as first projects, aim to do first person shooters? I mean, every time I see that, it's like, this cannot be professional. This is not serious. Who's gonna take you seriously if you do this? And I'm saying it with, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to step outside of your shoes and into the shoes of everybody else that doesn't know you, and it's not your family, friends, of teachers, and think what they will think when they see what you're doing. It requires a work on empathy. And of course, there are exceptions. I mean, I feel like, and this is just the second stream that I'm doing, but I feel like I'm going to be repeating myself every time I stream about this. Let's go to the next key, which is technology. Choosing the technology nowadays is maybe less relevant than it was some years ago, but it's still relevant. Again, thinking about someone setting up their company, probably pushed by maybe their studies or the lack of opportunity at established developers or other companies. I feel like sometimes in these universities or grades or degrees or schools or whatever, they push their students to pursue certain things that are unrealistic. It is okay for you to try to do it, but why not to keep it as a hobby? I mean, maybe I'm too practical. That could be it too. But this is about giving you more chances to succeed. Of course, there's going to be exceptions. Of course, there's always, different goals for everybody. But being mindful of what gives you better chances at succeeding doesn't make you a sellout. It makes you a smart person that knows what to do to get where they want to. So choosing a technology, it is important, because if you think that developing your own technology on the get-go and building your game on it on the get-go, that's not gonna make you stand out, really. I mean, just think about, what are you gonna be selling? Are you gonna be selling the technology, or are you gonna be selling the game? Because if you're gonna be selling the technology, then please knock yourself up. Go ahead, develop as much as you want, whatever, because all the technology that is already available for free, and it has taken like hundreds of people doing it for several years, and you're just what, 1, 5, 10 people starting right now off the university. Not realistic. Not realistic. No, not realistic. If the answer is that you're going to be selling video games, then invest all your time developing the video game, not doing the technology. And here, I'm not being a hypocrite. Well, I'm not saying one thing and doing another. I'm saying it because I've done it in the past and I know my mistakes. So I'm trying to give a good recommendation. Don't do it. I've done it. It sucks. You go out the drain because you're investing a lot of money, effort, time, happiness into doing something that doesn't get you any closer to your end goal, which is producing a great game that it's gonna play, sold by millions of people, by millions of dollars, right? So of course there are circumstances where it can be interesting to create your own technology, but those circumstances are so small, so specific that this recommendation is a general recommendation. There might be cases where exceptions make total sense. For example, last week Miguel was presenting a stream about how we created Providence Engine to create video games for the watches. That made total sense. As I said, there are certain instances where it will make total sense to create your own technology, but 99 out of 100, it will be better to use ready-made technology, right? What do we have now available? We have a lot of tools, but be mindful also what tools you use, because that will determine you to be able to adapt your game to other platforms. So imagine you create your game using Unity. Chances are that you're going to be able to publish it on PC, on Xbox, on PS whatever, Sony, now even on Nintendo Switch, on mobile, Android, iOS. So there's a wide range of platforms that you will be able to launch your game, right? There are certain limitations, especially if one is not super fluent at programming Unity. But otherwise, it should be quite good, quite okay. You can improve. One can improve at this, okay? There's also Unreal now. Unreal is also very adaptable to a wide range of platforms. That's very interesting to explore. Plus, Unreal is trying very hard to make it as friendly as possible. That's not necessarily something that programmers like, but Unreal looks very good from the artistic point of view. Like, arts on Unreal really are really amazing. But there's other options. One option that we actually have get to know a lot is Game Maker Studio from Yo-Yo Games. But there's also Coco Studio, Ogre. There's a lot of tools that you can research and find. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of tools, but be mindful. Be mindful of what do you want to do with your game, because there's a lot of people that start using, I don't know, one tool because it's exactly what they need, and then they find themselves prisoners to that technology, right? Because they cannot exporting their game to other platforms becomes very, very complicated. Be sure of what you want to do and why are you doing it. Okay, sixth key regarding the project. It also has to have a goal. And that is very easy, actually, to have, but not that easy to accomplish. Many have failed at it, and many will fail, which is get the game delivered, finished. It's not enough that you're doing the best game ever. The most important part of a project is finishing it, delivering, getting it out the door. You have no idea how many companies I would say all of them, imagine, all of them have projects that never launched. All of them. We at Abylight, I would like to say we're getting better, but it's not really. It happens. It's the games that you see that get to the stores are a fraction of the games that we work on. And I would say, and I would risk to say that goes for all developers in the world. All of them. No matter what size, no matter anything. But if you want to make it, you have to deliver. That's for sure. I mean, of course, you're gonna struggle, because there's always that point in the process of development. The team start normally. The team will start euphoric, happy, energy full on for the project. And then we pass several phases, we're happy again, and then when it's the final step, when we're already in QA, that's when we're desperate to finish it. We cannot more of this project. We are so fed up with the project that it is so easy to just kick it. Just let it go. Which is good to finish, but you have to finish in a certain way. I mean, I would say the importance of finishing and finishing well, it goes hand in hand. Because just finishing won't bring you what you've been working on for the whole time. You have to finish as a professional. In my book, that means that you overcome your tiredness of the project and you polish it to the best of your abilities. Because it's at the last instance when you prove yourself as a professional. That doesn't mean that all professionals do a good job. That means that you're a good professional. So finish it, and finish it as best as you started, which is gonna be very complicated because you're so fed up with the project at the point of closing. And it doesn't matter when it is. It doesn't matter if it's after a year and a half working on it, or after 3 months, or after 6 months. Because chances are a project that finishes at any point, it was supposed to finish at least 1 month earlier, or a third of the time earlier than it was supposed to. And that, in my experience, is kind of a rule. Video games, it's very hard to establish rules or, this is law. Not really. There's always exceptions. This is video game development is kind of like French. For every rule, there's like 100, 2,000 exceptions. Our French friends can testify to that. 7th key. Who is the audience? Who is the audience? Setting that, of course, it doesn't go after finishing the game. It has to go before. You have to, when setting the project on, it's when you have to decide, okay, this is the game that we're doing, and this is the reach it will have, and our audience, we're gonna sell this game to. And here you have to be very specific. It's not like, oh, who can play this game? Oh, it's for everyone. Everyone can play this game. Oh, everyone will love it. I've done that. I can see myself 20 years ago saying that, oh, this game's for everyone. And technically it is, but that's not the point. The point is, who's going to enjoy this game the most? Who is this game for? What likes, what dislikes has this person? Who is it? And it is very important because these, knowing who this game is for, will help you sell your game, explain your game. Imagine that you do a game that is a puzzle game for kids, 5-year-old kids. Well, this one is a bit tricky, but imagine that the 5-year-old is the one making the decision to buy or to download the game. Would you explain it the same way that if it was a first-person shooter for, adults between 20 to 35 years, male, I don't know, No. So it is very important to know who your imaginary audience or your audience is, and what do they like, and what don't they like, and where do they meet in this internet era. Where do they meet? Where does the audience for your game share information? Do they do it in Twitter? Do they do it on subreddit? Do they do it at, maybe it doesn't exist anymore, but that Habbo? No, probably it doesn't exist. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But my point is, the better you know who your audience is, what they like, where do they meet, how do they exchange information, that will make you closer to bring your game to them. Because remember, we are in an era where visibility is key. And visibility is not anymore being on the line on the store, but being wherever your audience, your public, your users are connecting to get this content, your content, right? So imagine that you are going to publish, or you've created a video game and you're going to publish it on the Switch, right? Which is very beloved at this moment by the indie developer community. And what you're going to do to make it known by your audience. What are you going to do? My recommendation would be, where are you going to be publishing? Are you going to be publishing in Europe, America, and Japan? Let's say you're only going to be publishing in Europe. Then absolutely get in contact with Nintendo Europe. Learn who manages the store. Get closer to them as much as possible, as much as they allow you. And make sure that your game is at that opening scene in the store. Make sure that your game is on that first raw in the eShop, right? 8K management. The company. So, being a developer is not being an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur or being a manager are actually three different things. Because there are professional managers that they work as managers and that's what they do. And then there's people that dedicate themselves to start companies, especially now with this trend of the startups and the tech startups and all that jazz. And if you're setting up a developer, I would recommend to get someone on those first team that we talked about that brings some abilities to the team, to the project, that are in management. Absolutely. Why? Because management is its own ability. It's so necessary to run a company. If you're trained as an artist, you might be super good at talking. You might be super good at creating, at imagining worlds. You might be a super talent, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna be an exceptional entrepreneur. Or, as we're talking now, an exceptional manager. Chances are you're gonna struggle. Because managing requires knowledge in financing, in analysis, in planning, in human resources, and teamwork and communication and problem solving and delivery and goals and budgets and taxes, uh, trips, events. I don't know. Have I bored you already about it? And Albert is sharing with us. I read someone on Twitter say management is not a promotion, is a change of profession coming from the developer side of the industry. Completely right. I agree with the point. Shifting to management is hard. It is incredibly hard if you're shifting. As I said, I think that I'm a pretty awesome manager, but I'm the crappiest artist that you will ever find. I don't even think that I can draw a line. Anyway, or programmer. Well, here and there, I've programmed a command line or something. But my point is that, as stupid as sounds, as me trying to be a programmer or an artist, designer is a bit different. Because everyone thinks they are a designer. So everybody has ideas, right? But designing, we all know, well, I don't know if everybody knows, but at Abylight we know that designer is something very different than just having ideas. It means a lot of work, Excel sheets, and pain and suffering and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, going back to our point, which is managing a company, if it sounds stupid, me trying to be a programmer or any other profession that it's not mine, it is the same. Turning a programmer into a manager, but not a lead programmer. That's different. I'm meaning a company manager, and where you have to have a wider outlook on things. So if you have no choice because you don't have that person that's gonna take the role, I completely recommend you to get that help somewhere. It could be an agency. We in Spain, we have agencies that take care of the managerial stuff. Still, they don't decide. They execute, like they present taxes, they do the payrolls, they do specific administrative work, but they don't decide. It's you, the entrepreneur, to decide. However, if you choose an agency that has experience on video games and maybe has other services that can complement it, then it's gonna be awesome for you because you're gonna be covered. Otherwise, you could check law firms that have this specialty, which is very difficult. I mean, in Spain it's complicated. There's other agencies that you can check. BSTEC agencies. I know of at least one that is in Madrid. Worldwide, I think in Spain is a bit harder. Everything is a bit harder because it's so new and all the investment has been around the artistic side or the creation side, forgetting the important side of management. But funny enough, they push them anyway to start their own company, which is a bit like, yeah, you can fly, go fly away, and then it's like exploding. It is even dangerous not to be covered or correctly covered. So I would definitely recommend to spend a little money onto getting good advice, legal advice, definitely legal advice, because as I said prior, you're creating IP, and creating IP allows and gives you rights and well, not obligations necessarily, but definitely rights. And if you don't want to lose them freely, willy-nilly, then just have a good lawyer advice. That's absolutely relevant in this area. Probably I would recommend to ask before paying, like get a feel of where you're going. Will they know what I need them to know? Or, you know, don't just pay. Just pay doesn't mean that you're going to get what you want. You need to be sure that people that you're getting your assistance know what they're supposed to. But nowadays it's not that complicated. I mean, I know several law firms that have amazing lawyers on IP and video games specifically. I mean, if anybody needs this kind of information, I know lawyers in the UK, I know lawyers in the States, in Germany. So I know I even have some contacts in Japan. So if anybody needs this kind of help, just, drop us a message. We're happy to share. That doesn't mean that they are cheap. I have no issue with their rates. Okay. But absolutely be mindful of the importance of having someone either in the team, which is always very recommended because they will think about your needs and how to get them, or because you engage them and they are relevant and know and proficient in your own industry, which is the video game industry. When you say losing IP, do you mean giving it to a publisher or losing it some other way? Did I say losing IP? I would need more context. Because, okay, losing IP. I can think of a way of losing your own IP. If you start, you're a programmer in a team, and I thought you said talk to a lawyer so you don't lose it. Oh. Well, I was more thinking of maybe in case of conflict, how to protect it if need be. You're right. I did say that, but not in the sense. I mean, if you're published, you're the author, you have that IP. There is no issue there. But it depends on what strategy you're trying to have. It's gonna be very interesting for you to check with a lawyer. For example, if you're coming a little too close to ripping someone off on their own IP, what can happen to you? Or, does it make sense to protect yours? I meant it more that in that sense. And we're coming to the ninth key. This is the ninth key is probably the reason why we're here right now, right? The ninth key is communication. Listen, Abylight has been around almost 20 years. So obviously, and me and the core team, we've been developing or in the industry for longer than that. Like, I think Alberto is already like 30 or 35, and also Ricardo. So it's a long time. So when the indie movement started, it was based on a lot of factors for success were based on communication. On communication on Reddit, on Twitter, on all these new trends and social networks, right? However, we were not the popular guys. We were not the popular kids in school. And I include myself. Probably I was, I don't know, forget about that. But communication or human relations, public relations was never the core of our abilities. So when the indie movement started, it was everything. And it still is. It's everything. Communication is everything. Being out there is everything. Because you need to be out there so your games are known. Because we live in an era where if you're not out there, it's like you're nothing or you're doing nothing at all. And just by doing an excellent video game, that's not gonna be enough. And again, there's gonna be exceptions. There's gonna be, cases where the developer did nothing and whoop, big success. But we're trying to show the best road to your end goal, not exceptions to common sense. It is an amazing industry where anything can happen and probably will happen in due time. But if you do things right and you know what you're doing, if luck hits you and you get to a success point, you will know what to do again to hit it again. If you leave everything to chance and you just do your thing and expect the universe to congregate with yourself, you will not know what you did to be successful. There's gonna be a lot of theories, but you won't know. And you know that you don't know what you did the first time to be successful. So, Albert said, you can make the best game ever and go broke if you don't know how to sell it. Well, yeah, this is totally right. I mean, actually, I know of cases where they did an amazing job, but sales weren't where it was supposed to. It's just that I don't know if I should be saying names, but I can say that it was a Spanish developer that did their last game, I think, or the biggest last game that this developer did was a game for PS Vita, and they sold like 500 copies. So you can imagine what happened to this developer. It struggled a bit longer after this after publishing the game, but they ended up disappearing because there was, no sales, no game, no developer eventually. It was a pity. It was a pity. So it is absolutely right and very important to be able to sell what you're doing. And for that, you need to communicate. In the Game EX, marketing starts on the first day, not release day. Well, maybe not first day, but definitely it's. Listen, it's just that there's so many. There's so many. You need so much time, and once it's launched, it's all new. So it's very hard. I mean, we're very stubborn, and when I say we, I mean Abylight, right? Abylight is very stubborn, and Abylight Studios. And we started working on Curse Castilla with Loco Malito and Grither 87 in 2016, or we launched the game in 2016. It's currently, we still talk about it and we still promote it, right? That's very uncommon. But it's tough, it's complicated. But the point being that you cannot just, you have to start before. Talking about a game afterwards, it's not going to be as interesting as talking about a game that it's going to happen. For example, Prison Tycoon under new management. Da-da-da! Full circle, right? So Prison Tycoon, for those of you that don't know, this is a game that Abylight is currently developing, right? We got the conversation rolling already, and it's announced that it's going to go into early access in this summer. So imagine, it's still far removed from launch, right? But still, we started talking sooner. True too that we also have a publisher, and true too is not our own IP, but we're out there talking about it because we're invested in it. It is important to us, even if it's not our own IP, even if it's not our game to publish, it is an important project for us. So we talk about it, we communicate about it. And Bovilla said, I fully agree with Eva. I love that. I would stop here and not continue reading. No, just kidding. The administrative background of a firm in Spain is a heavy burden. It is very advisable to center yourself in your core business and talk with an appropriate counsel. It is maybe the best deal you can do. I mean, I don't think it's just limited to Spain because, wow. I mean, in the States, if you do wrong your taxes, you can go to jail. Of course, I imagine that it's tougher than that, but I don't know of any king of Spain going to jail because they avoided paying their full taxes, and they avoided like a lot of money. But I know of several people in the States that went to jail for not paying their full taxes, for avoiding the full extent of the taxes that they were due. So, listen, be mindful. I expect this video, this conversation, to reach more than just the Spanish people. So, taxes is not it's not a kid's game. It's very, very serious. So, yeah. We were on the ninth point of this talk today. Communication, communication, and communication. So, if you were to have a store, a retailer, it would be location, location, location. If you're a developer trying to get out your game, it would be communication, communication, communication. I'm going to talk about, just shortly, a very good example of what is this. At least that I know, and it's from the Spanish indie dev scene, which is, it changed the name several times. Oh my god, please help me. The game that it's the stealth and it's the ninja, it's Lince Studio, and their game is Aragami. Thank you, Albert. So yes, Aragami. This is like the exception to almost everything that I've been saying, except on this point. Lince Studio it was a studio with, I want to say, 4 partners, maybe four partners. They met each other at school, so at the university. And Aragami, which had a different name, Path of Shadows, I think it was called. Yes, was like, when it was called Path of Shadows, and it was like a project for the university. It's not a first-person shooter. Probably you all know it, but it's very ambitious. Really, really ambitious game for a first project team, right? They spent developing the game like, and this is not a postmortem on the project, okay? It just, take an example of not to do about 10 rules of setting up your own company, a dev company. They spent like 3-4 years developing. They were part of an incubator, accelerator. They got funds from a bank, a fund, here and there. So they struggle a lot. And it became quite a big team. And the project never got small. So it is a pretty big project. The thing is that the lead, or one of the leaders, started talking about it on Reddit. If I say something super wrong, it just big strokes on the story. I'm not a sponsor or anything. So it promoted it on Reddit. It got a lot of traction. Really, really a lot of traction. To the point that they closed a deal with Sony. With their program, indie program or something like that. So I think that they got a little bit more funding from Sony. Maybe not. The point is that this was a project, that it was a group of students that turned their last project in the university into a full professional project and launched it. And it launched it with a lot of success. a lot. Like by Spanish standards was like ray of light. And they grew. They launched, I think, the second or a DLC or something like that. And then they closed a round of investment. I don't want to misquote, but I think it was between 3 and 4 million euros. And this is like this is a team of 10 to 12 people. So it was amazing. It's an amazing story. It's an amazing Spanish or Catalan success story. They are currently working on this new installment of Aragami. And as far as I know, they are doing super well. I mean, they couldn't do better. But again, they hit on they hit wrongly on a lot of the things that I've said, but they definitely hit on this, on communication. They were selling their game while they were doing it. So when they approached or got approached by Sony, it was done. They secure a certain amount of visibility on the store, and that helped them immensely. They are super cool people, very approachable. At least this is my experience. So I would totally recommend you guys to check on them. I would say this is an exceptional story, not a rule story, because they're the yeah, they work on the communication, but it feels like a lot of luck. Definitely. I mean, maybe we should listen to them to get them to explain us more details on how they set up the company and the structure. I mean, they got a lot of help and support from people that know a lot, right? The accelerator, and the incubator and all that stuff. I mean, I know especially people who work there when they were there, and of course they are super smart people. They got real good counsel. They definitely got lucky on certain points. They worked very hard, and they had something really good, really good, which is the communication. They really worked well on their communication, which meant for them sales, which meant for them deals, and that is super important when you're doing a video game, because otherwise you end up in a drawer. And the last key for a video game developer is value yourself. This is a tricky one. It's very tricky because in one hand you just started or you're at the beginning, so it's going to be tough to be super secure in yourself and your abilities, but at the same time you shouldn't be selling yourself short. And valuing yourself is also a signal of maturity. There is a say that says that as soon as you know your value, you will stop giving discounts. And I find it very true in a part, because I do have, well, maybe you know or not, but I do have an agency, and I love to give discounts to my clients because and I do know my value. It's important to value yourself, because if you know what you're worth, you won't be so ready to take shitty deals and regret them for the rest of your life. Valuing yourself doesn't mean that you're spoiled or ungrateful or, out of touch. Valuing yourself means that you can gather a good balance between what you're worth and what is at stake. It's very normal. I mean, you just started, so you're gonna be accomplished, but the people that are accomplished, it shows really fast. And again, I'm talking out of experience, so there's people that can take this valuing themselves sooner than others, I guess. I mean, my personal case is a long story, but it is good. It is good to know what you're worth, so nobody else tells you. You know, you have to know who you are and what you're worth. Matt Mirrorfish, what do you think about doing contract work or work for hire to fund your own IP or internal productions? Well, I think that it's an awesome way to do it. Uh, and I've always thought it and I always believe it. It is true that it's different skills because for several things. First off, a lot of times you're gonna have to compromise. That's the word. On a creative point, a lot of times, and that for a creative, it's very tough to do. That's the reason why all these indie scenes started up, right? Because there was no possibility to express themselves. But I definitely believe in that. Imagine we took on game work for hire, and what brings work for hire is a steady income. Everything has its risk, and everything has its returns, right? Work for hire can be steady, but it's a steady as long as everything goes well. Because if you have issues with your publisher, if your publisher is, a bit untrustworthy, or I don't know, suddenly they change their mind, it happens. I mean, everything can happen. So something that you took on because it was supposed to be steady and bring you some peace, it turns into big hell of experience. This happens. Everything happens, honestly. But I think that there's the opportunity to do many things, and doing work for hire to be able to develop your own IP is a good way to do it, in my opinion, because you can build your team, you can build experience of your team, and you can reduce the risk that you're taking by developing video games. And that would be the reason why I find that it's good to do work for hire. Work for hire has changed, it has evolved. It's not so close as it used to be. In the past it was more about the publisher knew exactly what game they wanted to put out and look for a developer to create it. So the creative freedom was very small. Nowadays, I find that a lot of publishers are looking for your creative input as a developer more than just telling you what they want, right? So on the creative side is a bit better. Well, not a bit. It's a lot better than it used to. On the stability side for the financial, it's video games. It's always going to be very tricky. It's always going to be very, very tricky. You can just do the best, hope for the best. No, you do your best and hope for the no. What? How was the saying? Is hope for the best and do what you can, or something like this. Well, that. And guys, this is my 10 keys for today. We've been touching some concepts that we already talked on our previous session last week, and I already get the feeling that certain concepts are gonna be very common on our talks because there are no rules. They are just ways to do things as best as possible and trying to leave the smallest room for luck to hit you. I always say that Abylight strongly believes in luck because we've had the worst. The worst luck ever possible, we've had it. When we need to search an incubator for an unrevealed game, when? Huh. Well, you have to check incubators, every incubator that you can, because each one of them has different rules and different paths, and you have to be mindful of what theirs are, because normally they put out their offers or their windows at a certain periods of time. At least it was like this before The pandemic, I don't know how the pandemic has affected incubators around the world. I know that there's several good incubators in the world, and I would say if you're planning to join one, research them as soon as possible, just to make sure that when you either are at that stage to propose yourself to get into, or that when you get to the point, you will be presenting your application on time. And I mean, yeah, I was gonna say that it wouldn't make any sense for Abylight to join an incubator, right? Because it's so past time. So, but imagine that I would set up a new company. I would be interested in doing and going through that process. I would research the incubators that are available. On the current status of industry, incubators are not locked for country or residence. Like there's a lot that will accept international applicants. So I would definitely look for that. And it's just that there was an experience. I don't know how to call it. It was like a summer camp in Sweden, I think. That it was set up by Tom. It was Tom. Well, one of the funders of King. And on paper it was completely past my time, but on paper look amazing. I think that if I would have been like 20 or to 25, I would have joined it, because it seemed like an amazing opportunity and experience. You went there for a month, I think, and you got to talk to. They brought people from the area, because the Nordics is an awesome place to get mentorship, feedback, everything. It's an amazing culture on the entrepreneur side. That's where I took it from, actually. The mentorship, I meant. And you would get these meetings, and then you would develop a game or your app, or I don't know, whatever, alone or with other people in this month camp or something like that. It was really cool. It was really really cool. Obviously, I think that now with the pandemic is suspended, and I don't know if it's still on. I hope it would, but cannot say it right now. Matt Mirror Fish, thanks. I appreciate the answer. I'm running a small agency that's doing well. I want more time to focus on our own project, but as you say, the agency work makes the money for now, and it's our way to manage risk. No easy answers. Yeah, Abilite started out doing work for hire. That's what I think you mean by agency. And we actually got into our own IP by force. I'm telling you, our luck was always really bad. So we got into creating our own IP because we had no chance. We had no other option. We couldn't find at the time work for hire. What were we going to do? We had to do video games. Luckily, yeah, luck. There were the online stores, so we could develop our own games and publish them, and also publish for third companies because of how regions worked and all that stuff, right? And I think that the beauty, that's what I want. It's to have a team doing this kind of work, and then a team doing our own stuff. And I wouldn't shift it. I wouldn't shift it, even if things on the IP front would to change a lot, because this is video games. And you know we're small fish, as you might see on our logo. Sometimes people don't see it, but it's a fish actually. And we've seen so many big companies fall, so many big, small, medium, and we keep swimming. I keep swimming, but it's tough. So Matt Mirror Fish says, so just confirming, you think even if your own project and your and own IP were making a lot of money, you'd keep the contract, work for hire side, going to avoid long term risk? I think that doing work for hire is important because it, yes, I think so. I definitely think so. I like doing work for hire. It gives a different perspective on things and helps you keep grounded and sharing about the industry in a completely different way. I am currently a little burnt out on dealing with clients. Well, this is normal. This is actually super normal to be burnt out about that. I'm gonna tell you more once I finish reading, which is why I'm thinking about wanting to do less client work. Yes, I completely understand that. And Indie Game EX is saying that he loves, or she loves, or whatever, loves how active, I guess, we are on social. Yeah, Orchid does an amazing job. I am really happy that she's the voice of Abylight because she is on socials like I imagine I would like to be, but I'm not. I'm like, so definitely need her help to communicate what I want to communicate on socials, or when we want to communicate on socials. The voice. And listen, if you're burnt out, just stop. Just give yourselves a breather. I burned out. I actually burned out, and I remember very well when it was, because I got pregnant at the end of it. So it was on 2018. I burned out. I couldn't with myself. I couldn't go on. It was just so, I was so tired. And funny enough, it was when everything started to work on its own, which probably it's when I allowed myself to crack, because things were working out. So I didn't have to push so hard anymore. I'm still pushing, but because I got back. I overcame my burnout. But yeah, so Gakriva Studio also know what it is because he also burned out in 2017. And I couldn't stop because I was the head of the company and there was a lot of people depending on me doing my job. But I was acting a lot in autopilot, for which it helped a lot, having done it for so long under so strenuous circumstances. But yeah, well, in June I got pregnant finally after years of going through a lot of process and stuff. And I don't know, a lot of stuff changed. It was like, okay, something is, I don't know, everything changed. And yeah, I grew out of it, I guess. I don't know, I cannot be off for too long. I actually love my job and I love the industry and I love the people that I work with, and that's what gives me the strength that I need. It, it was just that it was for so long, that it was so painful and so hard, that once it got start rolling, I couldn't. I failed for a bit. Not that the company suffered for that, but yeah. I mean, imagine I gave birth. I spent like 3 days because it was an awful birth, but I spent like 3 days at the hospital, which was like 2 days too long for me, and I had to get my computer so I could do payments and stuff on it. So imagine, I'm probably what people say a workaholic. So my burnout ha- had to pass fast enough. But at any rate, if you feel burnt out because you deal with clients, I would ask, can someone else deal with them at your company? I know I talk like long, but I hope to get to the point. Maybe you're just one person company or one partner company. That's gonna be tough, but it definitely, I would say, definitely try to find a, not necessarily a partner, but engage someone that can do the job for you, the administrative work, or can do some part of the dealing with clients, which can be complicated. Again, our situation, our current situation with the work for hire is exceptionally good. It's like we move from our bad luck and we're in a good stream. So our client, our partner, Ziggurat's Interactive is like the best. It's like a dream come true. It's what we've been waiting for our whole life to work with. So yeah, but I do have another company, and there's a lot of clients there. But again, I do like my clients. So I don't suffer that much because of them. On the contrary, they give me a lot of strength. So I do understand your pain, and I'm trying to figure out. But the best recommendation that I can think of is try to find someone that can share with you the relationship with clients. That's what I would do. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Man, mirror fish. I mean, so he's saying that it is very important finding great clients and partners to make that makes a huge difference. And it is, and it's not always been the case. I'm telling you, Abila strongly believes in luck because we've had bad luck for so long, so many years, and suddenly certain things we've been changing and adapting and like trying to figure out how to do things better or different because honestly, if you think oh if you do things always the same expecting a different result, I think it was Einstein that said you're stupid or something like that. I mean, you have to do things differently if you want to have different results. So that's what we've been doing at Abylight, and everything really started changing dramatically in 2017. So that was like 13 years into into the existence of the company. So it's a long, long time. But we've gone through very bad relationships, really bad, like really, really bad. And now I guess when we got into the work for hire and this partnership with this engagement with Ziggurat Interactive, of course we wanted to work with them, but it wouldn't have been the end of the world for us. We weren't desperate at any rate. So I can equate, and I always tend to equate these kind of things like setting together a developer and a publisher like a dance, or like finding your partner for life. It's like you're not gonna be the partner for everyone. So as a developer, you're not gonna be the developer for everyone. And as a publisher, the same thing. You're not gonna be the publisher for everyone. You have to find the partner that better agrees. But like in dating life, when you're desperate to find someone, it's like when nothing happens and you don't find anyone. And when you try too hard to make something work, and it's not working, it's not gonna work, and it doesn't work. Well, on the relationship between developer and publisher is kind of like the same. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it is a relationship that is based on respect. It sounds so much like a relationship advice, but it's true. It's true. It's an amazing, Ziggurat Interactive is an amazing publisher, respects their partners. At least that's what they're doing with us. They respect our creative drive, input, respects our professionalism, respects us. So we feel very, very well valued and considered, and it makes everything work better. Of course, there's moments where there's, issues, but we work it out. We talk about it. I don't know. It just that honestly, it feels so much like one of those, relationships. It's just what I'm seeing when I'm saying these things. But you know what? I once attended a seminar about happiness in the company, and something struck me as is very interesting about this. The lecturer said that he ran a company like a marketing agency or something like that, right? Well, he ran the company very differently, I guess. I don't know. But the point is that they had one client, right? They had one client that it was like a big client. It meant a lot of money for the agency or for the marketing company or whatever. And the people that were working on that client, they were miserable, like really miserable. And they had meetings, you know, the bosses and the employees regarding this client and what to do, because like literally meant cutting down the revenues and affecting the result, the yearly result, right? Well, this lecturer said that they decided to lose the client. The happiness of the team was more important than the client. And what happened was that this decision reinforced the team sentiment of belonging and worth, and actually improved their results, because losing this client allowed them to work better on other clients and gain more clients. So they and you know, I love this lecture and the whole happiness in the workplace, because for me it was very interesting, because you know, being happy is always very important for me, because I love my job. I'm not working because I have to. Of course I have to, but and I actually live of what we make. Nobody's funding us. But for me, even at the beginning, when I had no say into anything, because I was an early stage administrative worker. I love what I did, and for me that has always been very important. I'm not making, you know, of course sometimes it's hard, sometimes one has to do things that uh, don't like it or not, but you know, the average, the end evaluation is, yes, I'm doing what I like to do and I love what I do and who I am doing it with. So the team, what we're doing, the industry, it has to be something positive for you. If not, just move on to something else. Nowadays, surely you can make money doing something that you like, right? I mean, look at all these streamers talking about whatever they feel passionate and making a living out of it. This is a great example. And this is gonna be the end of the stream. Thank you guys very much for being here. Thank you guys. So I'm going to disconnect.